Good morning. The Yoga of Relationships, Chapter 13, The Stages of Love Relationship. The Stages of Love Relationships. It's a long chapter, so I'll read for about half an hour and then I'll see where I am. Let me see. The Stages of Love Relationships. There's a fellowship, quieter even than solitude, and which, rightly understood, is solitude made perfect. That's a quote from Robert Louis Stevenson. In chapter 9, we discussed the stages of seeking love relationships. Chapter 8 shows how relationships become more loving as you progress through the stages of self-knowledge. Differences, which are unavoidable at every stage of your growth, eventually makes no difference when you arrive at the last stage, non-dual love. Because the nature of the universal I that we all share is love. Love is present in some form in every relationship. Stage 1. Extreme duality. Stage 1 is what is considered normal life by many. It's only a stage. It's only a stage. If you get to stage 3, because you don't know if you will ever grow out of it. If you're normal, you more or less do what society expects of you. You go to school, get a job, get married, raise children, and worry about everything. You grow old, but you do not grow up. You probably attend your high school reunions in a wheelchair until you are the last man or woman standing. You have survived, but you did not grow in self-awareness, much less thrive. If you flirt with spirituality at some point, you quickly flit back to the familiar because the spark of dissatisfaction burns out quickly in the face of the understanding that self-development is hard work. You may be a bit old school and stick with your high school sweetheart, but it was not easy learning to tolerate each other, much less develop an accommodating attitude that stopped at resigned indifference, or, if you're lucky, affectionate acceptance. Probably you worked your way through the ups and downs of several important special relationships, and perhaps even realized their inherently zero-sum nature. But what good did it do if you are trolling the dating sites well into your 70s? You say yes, I say no. Fights are inevitable in worldly relationships, owing to different priorities and values. Most arguments involve a unilateral declaration of blame, which is meant to relieve the blamer of responsibility for uncharitable feelings towards his or her partner. Neither the blamer nor the blamed want to argue, but they can't help it. Arguments are never about what they purport to be about. Just as you don't think I'll forget before you forget when you wake up in the morning, you don't think I'll get in a nasty argument with my husband today. Arguments happen because my guna-driven values conflict with your guna-driven values when they are tweaked in certain situations. If you were my willing slave, we would never argue. Love does not mean that individuals should act out the desires of the people they love. Love is big enough to let loved ones be themselves. But when desire is mistaken for love, fights erupt. Denial. In this stage, there is no solution because both people are unaware of their Subconscious minds. When you're alone, you are not usually aware of the unseen value structure influencing your thinking and your behavior, much less when you're dealing with another mind. The illustration following shows that only one of the 8 factors involved in two-way transactions is known: your conscious mind and the conscious mind of the individual with whom you're speaking, indicated by the letters SB in the white section at the bottom of the chart. Anyway, there's a chart on the next page which shows the different stages that all take place, that are all included in communication. And they say there's 8 stages, and only 2 of them are known to us. So there's a lot going on unconsciously. So most of us only know what is appearing in the moment, but what we experience is generated by our subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind, the 3 ever-changing energies keeping our minds and emotions in a state of constant agitation. How can our subconscious stuff be directly known? Because, like the self, it is beyond the experience of our senses. It would be very helpful to understand the subconscious, because everything we experience comes from it. Worldly people, however, are subjected to constant conflict because they are completely in the dark. They are only conscious of their immediate fears and desires. Not only do they not know the effect of their subconscious minds on their conscious minds, they don't know that their subconscious minds are directly controlled by an even subtler level of reality, the macrocosmic mind. And this mind is also changing according to a different set of parameters, the needs of all the factors in the field of existence. Furthermore, what you say and do is subject to particularities apparently induced by free will, which are related to the dynamic situations you confront daily. So when you transact with someone, you are dealing with a complex field. There's no solution on the level of the argument, because as all the factors change, they keep creating problems. If you expect life to be problem-free, you are deluded. Even liberation is liberation in spite of life. This is not to say that you can't create a flowing, happy life, but that it is only possible when rajas and tamas have been thoroughly subordinated to sattva. Rajas and tamas confuse and particularize your vision, but sattva expands it, affording a panoramic view. Love, mistaken for desire, holds your feelings hostage to the feelings of the love object, which is the antithesis of love, because real love is free of the need for emotional validation. It wants nothing and fears nothing. It is self-satisfied. Desire masquerading as love produces constant anxiety. The fear of loss is its constant companion. Such is the zero-sum nature of life. Extreme duality. The basic idea in this first stage is that without a special someone, I'm only half a person. I believe there's no question that we are separate individuals who, in the best of all possible worlds, are born to cater to each other's needs. Unfortunately, it's not the best of all possible worlds. Problems arise, however, when my dedication to your needs is not as firm as my dedication to my own needs. And should they conflict, which they inevitably do. And at this stage, neither of us knows that need is just need. Getting what we want, even at the expense of the other, is the only option. If you find yourself in this situation, you should not beat yourself up because you are needier than your mate. Nor should you feel superior because you put fewer demands on your partner. By definition, conditioning is unconscious. Everything you do conditions you, but you're not to blame because you don't realize you are programming yourself when you act. Cloning. Dualistic desire based love relationships often suffer from cloning, the idea that harmony is only possible when both individuals finish each other's sentences, dress alike, eat the same food, and enjoy the same activities. While sameness is perhaps an admirable ideal, it is more or less impossible owing to diverse conditioning. Furthermore, people never have the same relationship to their conditioning. Some can change their habits relatively easily, others find it extremely difficult. If you live alone, a bad habit may cause conflict for you, but it doesn't cause conflict with others. If you live with someone, however, it causes conflict for both, unless they value the same bad habit. When you believe that love means sameness, you are asking for stress. There's no formula for success that works for everyone, but the formula for failure is universal, trying to please everyone. Power struggles are inevitable, owing to innate differences. When two people think the way they see things is better than the way the other sees them, power becomes the dominant energy in the relationship. Your lover needs to conform to your ideal, or the love juices won't flow. The difference between my ideal and your behavior compels me to manipulate or mollify you to make myself happy. In the event you're not hopelessly submissive, compliant, and accommodating. And if my significant other is also willful and insecure, I need to be sure that I don't end up being victimized, although victimhood confers certain advantages, the power to manipulate, for instance. Anger and attachment also characterize the first stage. You are basically a big baby emotionally. You're easily angered because you're not getting the love you want the way you want it when you want it. Obstructed desire turns to anger. Down deep, you're not even angry because you're not getting what you want from your love object. You're angry because you're not getting what you want from yourself. So you intimidate and harass others. You're not trying to actualize your value for freedom. Freedom brings the responsibility of choice, which is risky. You made a deal with the devil. You sold your birthright for insubstantial experiences. Attachment is very painful unless you're attached to the right things. But your mind is so clouded with emotion that you have no idea what is right for you. Another identifier is lying. Nobody really knows what you feel, thank God. Can you imagine life if everybody knew what everybody else was thinking? Basically, others only know what they are told or what they have observed directly. So sometimes, to keep the peace, stepping on one of those mines is painful. You are tempted to cut a few corners. Of course, honesty is the best policy, but the truth is often hard to accept because it often doesn't fit with your love object's ideas of how things should be, nor does theirs fit with yours. But the lies we tell each other about what we want, think, and feel are insignificant compared to the big lie we are telling ourselves. I am half a person, an inadequate, incomplete little bundle of need, burdened by the vain expectation that the world is here to make me happy. When love is mistaken for desire, you want something from the love object, which produces feelings that are inevitably constrained by the behavior of the love object. Therefore, you need to control your lover to avoid bad feelings. Control other than self control is a bad idea for a simple reason. The results of your actions are not up to you. People won't go against their conditioning unless they realize it's not serving their highest value. Any change enforced from outside will inevitably be undone. So in this stage, you're always emotional. There may be rare ceasefires between the fights, make up sex, for instance, but there is a constant sense of fear, like walking in a minefield. Add the constant desire to the constant fear, and your mind is a cauldron of instability. This fear of loss, not of the relationship, but of the love that it symbolizes, will not go until the question of my incompleteness is resolved. And it is almost never resolved in this stage because the relationship is meant to compensate for it. Obviously, relationships don't cause incompleteness. Incompleteness causes the need for relationships. You should be able to identify stage 1 symptoms by now, but know you are in it when you feel that the other person is your wife, husband, lover, significant other, etc. Nobody belongs to you. In fact, you don't belong to you either. But that is something you discover when you get to a later stage. If you weren't so narcissistic, you could sympathize with your partner's resistance to control because you're just as resistant to it. In this stage, you tend to be impetuous, impulsive, and completely enthralled to your passions, but you imbue them with an unwarranted sanctity. You trivialize or deny conflict and remain in the relationship long past its sell by date. Perhaps you like the conflict because it makes you feel alive. If you were truly alive, you would not care whether you had a relationship or not, in which case you would be very attractive to suitors. If the anger and disappointment are unresolvable, you hit the dating sites and try again. You find people in their 50s and 60s navigating their fifth or sixth meaningful relationship and none the wiser for it. Sometimes they are so stubborn they insist on a trip to the altar each time. It is to be hoped that it never happens to you, but you may very well get addicted to pain. No matter how badly you are treated, you think you deserve it. I call it normalizing the abnormal. In advanced stages, you completely lose touch with the meaning of normal. Pain is pain, but somehow it feels good and may become an identity with certain perks, like blaming your partner for your messy life or justifying why you are such a spineless loser. So far, we have assumed that everyone is more or less the same. But the world of duality is complex, owing to different guna configurations. Each guna produces different priorities and values, which produce distinct attitudes and actions. A predominantly rajasic person in a relationship with a predominantly tamasic person produces conflict. Two predominantly rajasic or tamasic individuals inevitably conflict. Predominantly sattvic people always have problems with rajasic and tamasic individuals, and vice versa. So, what is the upside? The upside is the downside. If all goes well, you grow out of it as quickly as possible. Living the dream of endless romantic passion is a dangerous illusion. Finally, don't think that when you evolve to the next stage, that stage one is gone for good. Bedrock duality can be converted into bedrock non-duality, but it's a long process. No matter how quickly you grow, you will consistently default to it in times of stress. Stage 2: Defensiveness and Resignation. Your manipulation strategies need to evolve because your partner has developed a strong suit of armor. He or she has been hurt. Images of excessively muscled robot warriors, armored from head to toe, that dominate the popular media point to societies that have entered this stage. You become war weary. The ubi- ob- u- the oh God. The ubiquity and overwhelming power of the entertainment industry attests to the fact that boredom is rampant. If you're still with your significant other, about half of all marriages survive stage one. When the Hollywood myth of eternal passion ends, your relationship has become little more than a joyless prison of perfunctory habits. Blame subsides because you're starting to realize that blame doesn't help. But there's plenty of denial left because some part of you still clings to the myth. Maybe you don't have the courage to try again and you settle for a marriage of convenience instead. You don't sell the house or quit the job, but you keep separate bedrooms, have your discreet little dalliances on the side, and see the kids through college. You justify this as the decent thing to do. Sometimes one or the other tries to rekindle the flame of love, and marriage counselors enter the picture. Maybe you try romantic weekends in seaside hotels with candlelit dinners, hot tubs, chocolates, and the pillows and porn channels on the TV. This strategy may work for a while, but there's usually not enough passion left in your emotional batteries to make it last more than a year or two. Maturity is a strange business. Sometimes it never happens. Witness the current president of the USA, the archetypal man-child. Nor does it necessarily correlate with age, but it is associated with the three gunas. In stage one, rajas and tamas are dominant, with very little sattva. Suffering needn't stop your spiritual growth and turn you into the living dead. Zombie movies reflect society's recognition of this phenomenon. Sometimes it increases acuity, a sattvic value. And then stage 3, taking responsibility is for tomorrow. So I wish you a great day. Bye for now.